Hi everybody, my name's Darcy. I'm the Training Program Manager here at QuickBooks Online. Welcome to today's session on what's new in QuickBooks Online. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. We have a question panel on the right. For those of you that haven't attended one of our webinars before, you can simply pop your questions in there. I'll be around for the whole session today, so I'll be managing those questions. And when we come to a break, I'll feed some questions back to Leanne. We imagine that we'll get a lot of questions today. We're doing a lot of product development in QuickBooks Online, so we might not get to every single question, but certainly we'll have a log of all those questions. So please ask your questions away in there. Also, we'll be recording today's session and making that available on the Resource Centre, and we'll send a link out for that as well, and I'll drop a link into the chat room as well of how you can get into the fantastic QuickBooks Resource Centre to find out everything you need to know about QuickBooks Online. And I guess many of you will know Leanne already, but for those of you that don't, Leanne is the owner-operator of Sorted Out Office Assist, which she established in early 2013. And not only is Leanne an expert in QuickBooks Online, but her background in operations management means that she's always helping small businesses get their back-end processes together for for those profitability and growth sort of exercises that people do. Leanne is a great contributor to the Pro Advisor Facebook community, so she's often in there like helping people out as well. So hey Leanne, what's the hashtag for the session today?
Thanks, Darcy. The hashtag, where is it? The hashtag is hashtag what's new QB. So if we use that hashtag in the Pro Advisor community today, we'll be able to search for all the questions if you start a different post, a separate post to other post, if that makes sense. So the hashtag what's new QB. Excellent.
Well, I'll hand over to you, Leanne. Take it away.
Thanks, Darcy. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully you have your lunch and you're able to sit back and relax and have a look at what we've got to present today. So I'll just go back to my agenda, back one page. So the agenda for today is we're going to go through QBOA Work tab, QBOA Apps tab, QBO Projects, Simpler BAS, and also a couple of extra with the Google Calendar integration in QBO as well. So we'll go through those topics. So in the Work tab, we'll go through tracking projects and requests, filters and views, duplicating projects and tasks, access and permissions, create a project, edit a project, make a project, repeat, and client collaboration. In the Apps tab, it's a little smaller. We'll show you the Apps tab, how to manage your how to manage your apps, and then just refer to a page for frequently asked questions on your apps as well. Then we're going to go through projects. So project in QBO, so the project tab or the project center, that's just pretty new to QuickBooks as well. We'll show you how to turn on projects, how to create and track your projects, add transactions outside of projects, moving existing transactions to projects. And then the Simpler BAS in QBO, just an overview of that. And then the Google, which we've added in really late, so it's not in my slides, so it's just working now. So I'm not going to bore you by PowerPoint. I'm going to jump into the products straight away. So some products that I have, my screens that I have prepared earlier. So I'm just in the QBOA, and I'm assuming that all of you here today know exactly how to get into QBOA, so I won't go into any detail about that. We're just going to go through our Work tab. Now, as Darcy did say, there is a manual, I think Darcy said a handout on your GoToWebinar control panel, the PDF that you can download, which has all the information that we're going through today as well. So I'm just going to bring this over. So just on page 6, we're starting on the Work tab. And so you would have noticed in the last couple of months, these little pink new icons pop up on your left-hand navigation bar, just on your Work tab and also on your Apps tab. So there have been a few updates to the Work tab. If you haven't seen the Work tab, it is a practice management feature within QuickBooks Online. You don't need to activate it. It's free, it's automatically turned on. You can just start using it if you would like to use it as part of your practice management. How it works and the layout of it, At the top here, we have our search buttons or our, our filtering. So I can filter on particular clients, and then I can filter on my team members as well. So this is a demo company. I've just got me in and one other team member in here. So I can filter on my tasks, my team members' tasks, and then also have a look at everyone's tasks. And then what kind of projects, tasks, or requests I want to filter that by as well. So I can just have projects, just have tasks, and just have requests. So there's a pretty lots of different ways that you can filter on the look as well. So the look also is, I'm just going to get that back to everyone so we've got something to show there. Over to the right-hand side here, we have our grid view, and then we have our list view. So depending on how you'd like to look at that, you can change the view on that as well. So here we have, it's like a Trello style page. So we've got what's due today, what's due this week, what's due next week, and what will be due in the next 30 days. Whereas the list view will give you all of your different tasks in a list view. You can go and sort by those as well. So sort in exactly the same way, it just gives you a different view. And I guess just by your personal choice on how you would like to view your tasks that need to be done. So from QuickBooks, this little tab here, so this will let you add in any transactions that need to be done from QuickBooks. So it'll pull in information from QuickBooks. So this down here, my Bentley Handyman, my demo company on here, it's bringing this information through for how many transactions I have to review. So these are my bank feeds, which feeds through also from your client tab on your for review. So it'll be similar to your for review, and you'll be able to see how many transactions you've got there. It'll feed through to your work tab as well. So you can choose to turn this on or turn it off if you don't want to see how many bank feeds you've got to process in your client's file in here. You can turn that on or off. You don't have to have your clients using QuickBooks Online to be able to add them to the work tab. You can just add your clients through your dashboard here on your client center. So you'll see where I don't have a status icon, my demo company and the Ruby's Toy Shop here, these are clients that I have that aren't linked to a QBO file, but I can add their work into my work tab here, so create work for them. The tabs up the top here, so create a client request. So this is really good for trying to get bank statements from your clients, trying to get source documents. If you want to get them to sign something, you can send it through here. So just go through and fill out the request to your client. So you could have so your BAS declaration. Select the client that you want that to. So see here, you can see these clients here. So Ruby's Toy Shop is not my QuickBooks Online client, doesn't have a QuickBooks Online file, but I can add them to my work tab. I'm going to do my Bentley Handyman so I can show you how that works. What the due date is, so I can set a due date on that I want to have that finished by, and the status, so to do, in progress, or done. So this is going to be to do, and then has some details on that. So what do you need from the client? So I could just say, please sign the attached BAS declaration, and then add the document. So if I've got my PDF, I'll just add my PDF into here. It's not actually a BAS declaration, but we'll just add in the PDF. So it's just uploading that. So that's done. It's going to attach that document. I'm going to notify the client. So an email is going to go to the client, and it's also going to publish that to the client's QuickBooks. And I'll go into the client's file and show you exactly how that comes up as well. So this is a preview of the email that's going to go out. You can allow replies back to that email as well if you want them to reply back to your email, and then just publish and send that. So that's also come up in my to-do. I did have a due date on that for the 8th of December, so that's now sitting in my task that I can follow up that next week for the 8th of December. Oh, this week, sorry, this week. I was going to say that 8th of December is this week. So yeah, so I can track that down. I can also update the status from here as well. So if I want to change the date, I can click on the due date and update that due date. It's going to move that over. I can also then update my to-do. So if I want to say that that's in progress, maybe, you know, because I have sent it out or they've sent one back, I can update that progress as well. And it'll also update and tell me whether or not this has come back. So I can see if there's any attachments come back and any replies come back as well. That'll update that. And I'll show you how that'll update after we get into the client's file. Then next to that, we have our create project. And I'm sorry, I'm going through this really fast. I'm on a tight time limit to get all this to you for an hour. So if you miss anything, that, like Darcy said, there will be the recording. So now we can create a project. Now this is great for creating for, you know, your checklists and tasks that you need to do for each client. So if I was to do maybe my we'll do weekly bookkeeping tasks. I'll pick my client again as my Bentley Handyman. My due date, so I'm going to do the due date by Friday, and I'm going to put that on a repeat. So I want to have this this is a weekly bookkeeping client, so I'm going to set this up to schedule every week, and it needs to be done every Friday. I'm going to assign it to John. He's the one that needs to do it. And then, you know, whatever the description is for that, please complete bookkeeping. And then I can add the tasks to do down here as well. So I might say add a task for get, and whatever your process is, I'm just making this up as I go along. Get source documents, and we could say that, you know, that's due today, and I'm going to assign that to my team member John, and then go through each of the, you know, process your bank feeds. And we'll say that's due on the Thursday, and I'm going to assign that to John as well, and add another task, and then this will be review, and that's due on the Friday, and I'm going to assign that one to me, and then I can save that. So I've set that now as a weekly schedule that's going to pop up in my, so it's just populated in my tasks to do here. So I've got this week's task due, and then it'll pop up in next week, and then it's popped up in, you know, every week for things to do. So I could just have a look here on what John's got to do, so all of John's tasks, just what he's got to do, and see where that's up to as well. Again, I can update these to-do dates, who it's allocated to. I might want to change that to me if, you know, if John's not working for the day, I need to reallocate that. I might have some other team members, and that's where it comes in handy too, where I can see what kind of work is in progress and where everybody's up to, and just reallocate that really quickly from my board here. If I do have other clients that I also do weekly bookkeeping for, I can make that or copy this, so duplicate it and assign it to another customer as well. So I'm just going to duplicate that, and I'm going to put this over to Ruby's Toy Shop and make this a weekly thing as well. I'll get rid of the copy, and now I've saved that for Ruby's Toy Shop, and that's going to add that to my board also. So it's really quick now to duplicate. So if you had a look at this a couple of months ago, we didn't have that reoccurring templates and the duplicate. So it's really quick now to be able to add in your, you know, copy your processes. Okay, so just moving along, gone through the list. I think that we've done the projects now. So your client collaboration, and I'll just show you how it works. I've got my client's file open over here. I'm just going to bring this across. So I'm logged in as the client now, and if I go in, I can have a look at my email here. I've got an email from my accountant, which is my QBO training file, or my bookkeeper, saying you know, that I've requested some documents so I can respond in QuickBooks. I can follow that link. I've already got the file open. So I'm just going to click on the My Accountant tab, and that request will now be in here in my, should be in here. Just refresh that. Here we go, upcoming. I was looking in the wrong spot. So please sign the BAS declaration. So then I can update that. I can or as the client, I can download that PDF that they've sent through and then send that back. So I can comment back. I'm just going to do a really quick comment back because I need to keep moving. And then that will then update in my QBO in my accountant file. So if I come back here, and I'll just refresh this. So I'll have now I can't find my job. I will have an update to that with a message on it. Now everyone else will be able to see it, and I can't see it for looking now. I'm just going to do this because I've got John. I need everyone. I need mine. And I'm just going to do me and my client so I can find it a little easy. And I can't see for looking. It's, why can't I see it? Let me just go everyone. It will be in here somewhere. That it does come back. I'm just going to refresh that one more time. Just come back and update there. I think I just saw it. Please sign my BAS documents in here. There we go. So now I can see that I've got a message there, and I can go in and read that message, so that test, and I can reply to my client within that tab as well. So no need to log in and out of your emails. You can keep all of your communication going in your QBOA. Okay, so that's the work tab really quickly. Now I'm just going to have a look at the apps tab. So the new apps tab is a place, so you might remember your apps.com or the apps tab within your client's file. So the first tab here, we've got Find Apps, Client Apps, and Firm Apps. So if you wanted to have a look at what apps there were, we've got the Browse by Category, so the different categories you can select to have a look at what apps are available to integrate with QBO. And I think there's over 500 now, so there's lots of different apps that you can integrate. So here on this tab, you can find your apps. On the next tab is your client app. So you can have a look at what apps you actually have linked up or integrated with your client's file. So here you can see with my Bentley Handyman, I've got KeyPay linked up. So I can, I've got my action tab, I can launch it, get some support on KeyPay, disconnect it or review it, and then add a new app from in here as well. So rather than going into your client's file, you can actually set it up from your apps tab within your QBOA. And then you can have a look at your firm apps as well. So in mine being my demo company, I've just got my Google Calendar integration. But if you're using apps like Practice Ignition and HubDoc, Gov Reports, all of those that are associated with your firm will all pop up here, and you can also add new apps for your firm through here as well. So yeah, it's really cool just to not have to go into your client's file, see what different apps are integrating. You can see all this directly from the apps tab. Okay, so that's the work tab and the apps tab. I'm now going to move on to projects. So just on page page 18 of your manual, there's just some frequently asked questions about some apps as well. So if you've got any, about the ownership and what kind of users have access to the app. So any questions on that on page 18 of the manual. So we're just going to move on now to projects. So on page 19 of the projects. So projects, you may have noticed, has been added to QBO recently as well. It was in our beta testing, which is our QuickBooks Labs. If you don't know about QuickBooks Labs, just on your gear icon, the top right hand corner, oops, that's another thing I'm going to show you in a minute. Just click on that. Not getting used to that little messages there. So just on your QuickBooks Labs tab on your company settings, or on your gear icon, I should say, there is a QuickBooks Labs. So it was in here that you could turn it on, but now if you hadn't turned it on while it was in QuickBooks Labs, it is now on your accounts and settings. So there's a tab for your projects under advanced. So your projects down here. So if you do want to use that, just go in and turn it on. Mine was turned on while it was on beta, so it is actually working. I don't have the option to turn that on, but yours should say, if you haven't used that you can just turn that on and start using it. It is only available in the Plus version of QuickBooks Online, so if you do want to use the projects, you will need to have the Plus subscription. So now we have a few different ways of tracking different things for project type things as well. And just to give you a bit of an idea, like with my demo company here, I've got my projects turned on. I'm also using classes and I'm also using locations. So where in the past you might have been using classes to track jobs, you can now use your projects. You may have also, and anybody who has been using QuickBooks Desktop in the past would have known about your sub-customers and how you can set your sub-customers up. So if you were using sub-customers, so I've got some sub-customers here, projects kind of works in the same way as your sub-customers. So it'd just be a matter of working out, you know, what you need to track, because you still have your classes, you still have your locations, you can still do sub-customers, and now you have your projects, which is a whole project center. So with mine, just to give you a bit of an idea, with mine, I use my classes in this file as a department, so I can track all of my transactions per department by department. So this is a building, construction, landscaping business. I do a lot of different stuff, so I have all of my different departments for that under my classes. And then with my locations, I actually use those as physical locations. So I have different locations all over Victoria and New South Wales. So I use this as a physical location, which works really well, because with the locations I can then you know, edit my invoices to suit that particular location. And then you have your projects now. So your projects is a whole center on your left-hand navigation bar. If I log into that, I can see all the different projects that I have in progress, and then all of my projects that I've completed as well. And I guess just thinking a little bit outside the square, and I might get, if anyone's already using projects, just put in the chat, give me some ideas that I can give back on, you know, if you're using projects, what kind of business you're using projects for, and how they're using them in some, if you can do it in the chat, otherwise maybe some feedback into the Facebook group as well, just on how you're using the projects. You know, I'm using it for a building company.
Sorry, thanks, Leanne. So Janelle
fine.
is in the Facebook community asking some great questions. Thanks, Janelle. And one of the questions was, how do you set up clients in the workflow that are not attached to a client file? So those clients that maybe don't have QuickBooks Online, can we do a project for them?
A project in the Work tab, back to the Work tab, yes. In here, yeah, so Janelle, you just need to add them in your client list here. So see, and it's pretty easy, you just add them as a client. So go in and add it as a client as you normally would. Fill out the information here, and it's just, now it used to be just not selecting a product. If you don't select a product here, that's a really good question. I wonder if individual. It used to be you just add products, so just don't want to select
I think you might add them in the sales command center of your file. But Janelle, we'll get back to you with the steps on that.
Yeah.
Great question.
It was a great question, because you used to be able to do it in here, so it's a good question, but I'll do some research and get back to you.
Thanks, Lynn.
And now try and get back off this page. Yes, I do. No worries, thank you. Okay, so just coming back to our projects. You need to add them as a customer, Christina just said as well. So it'd be in your, you're using your books, so QBO, in your books, so you can add your customers in here, through here, and add them through there, and they should then populate on your client list. It's been a while. Okay, so back to the projects tab. Yeah, so if you've got some different ways that you might have to just give us some ideas. So something we were talking about yesterday was, you know, maybe you've got a mechanic and you want to add the job that you're doing for a client on his car. So, you know, you might add in the vehicle and the registration number, and then all the jobs that you do and track on those vehicles. Mine here is, as I said, the building industry, so a building and construction. So I've got my different, you know, we're building swimming pools and new housing construction. and these are my ones in progress. So you can add your new projects and track them directly in your project center here, and then by customer as well. If I go in and have a look at my customer card, so any customer card, all of my customer cards now will also have this project tab within the customer card. So I've got my transaction list, new project tab, and then my customer details. And you can add a project specifically for that customer through this tab as well. So when I go in and add a project, just go in and add a new project. You want to have the project name. So what the name of the project is. What can we build today? We'll build a, let's build a, we're going to build a cubby house. We're into cubby houses now as well. And we'll build a cubby house for Chris Smith. And another good idea too, just on some of your transactions, and I'm going to show you quickly the mobile phone and how that works, and being able to pick up the project. A good idea just to maybe put in a number, or that makes it easy to identify the project. Just on some transactions that it may not be obvious that it is for Chris Smith. So we'll just say build new, or maybe, you know, you've got the street name. He can live at Smith Street. Cubby house at 123 Smith Street, and the cubby house is for Chris. And we can just save that. So now we've got our new project. So I can go in now, and I've got my transactions in here. So this will open up to the information for the project. I've got an overview. I can check with a click of a button my project profitability, any unbilled time and expenses, and then any non-billable time and expenses. And then on my transaction tab, I can have a look at what transactions are have come through for that actual project. So I'll just show you one that I do have some information just because of time today. So with my front yard for Linda Higgs, I've got an overview here. So if I click on the project profitability, there's already a report in there that's been created that I can see, you know, what the profit is. I've got my income, my expenses, my profit for that particular job. I've got any unbilled time and expenses, so I can see what still needs to be billed out to the client. And then I've got any non-billable time. So if you're keeping track of all your time and you want to see what, you know, what it's cost you and that you're not going to bill out, you've got that in there as well. And then the transactions, so all transactions associated with that particular project will come up in this register here. I can add something new to my project. So add an invoice, receive a payment, add an expense, add a quote, add some time, add a bill, and add a purchase order. And just watch this space as well for an estimate. So for some, the invoicing, progress invoicing is not too far away. That will be added to this tab as well. Okay, so I just want to show you quickly, you know, all the transactions. So when you go in to create a transaction, so if I do go into it to create an invoice outside of projects, you'll see you've got choose a customer or a project. So now I could just choose that cubby house. So I've just typed in the start of the word cubby house there. So I just pick up the cubby house for Chris Smith, and then I can start to invoice him out for that particular project. That'll then update that project. Same with my expenses. So come in and create an expense. Whoever that might be for, I might have bought my stuff from Bunnings. And then here I would just pick up my customer or my project. So again, just type in, if I can type, cubby house, and it's going to bring up Chris Smith, and then I can track that back to that particular job. Also with the mobile phone app, I'm just going to log in so I can show you how this works. The mobile phone app is, and again, if you haven't had a look at the mobile phone app, have a look at it. It's pretty cool. You can do so much more stuff on it now. I'm just getting my mirroring to work. There we go. Bear with me one sec. Log in. So I can go in to create an expense or an invoice as well. You know, take your photo of your receipt, how much is the receipt for, what account did you pay it out of, then who did you pay? So again, if I just select Bunnings this time, I've got my location. It's automatically come up with the account that that's going to. And then who was it for? So pick up, we're going to pick up Chris here. So we're going to pick up Chris's cubby house, and then my tax rate. And then just make that billable back to him. So either if you want to create that as a billable expense, you can make that billable back, or if you're just tracking the expense for that particular client, you can do that on your mobile phone as well. So I just save that receipt, and then that's automatically going to update that in my project. Should have the transaction in here now, just refresh that. Come through. Just because I want it to work today. I'm going to come back and log in and log out of that. That should update that transaction there. So it will appear in my register here once I've added that transaction. If in doubt, log out and start again. Okay, so that is projects.
Thanks, Leanne. We have
so
a question from Beatrice.
Yeah.
Allocate an expense from
Yes.
bank feeds to projects.
Yes, you can. So if I come into my bank feeds, I'll just see if I've got any sitting in here. So I've got one sitting in here. Let me just undo a couple I've got rather than, I'll just undo that one. Undo one, it lets me undo. I'll just undo that one. So that'll sit back now on my for review. So this is an expense here. So from here, I can just allocate that. So if you select the customer, which is optional, I can just put in cubby house here. And also if I wanted to make that billable back, select it in here as well. So yes, definitely you can do that from your bank feeds.
Excellent. And do projects link with KeyPay? Question from Kay Williams.
Then not at the moment, but you can, if you set up your locations in KeyPay and you have those feed back into your journals for your payroll, it's a little bit of a manual process at the moment, just because it's fairly new, and I think it's something that that KeyPay need to do, but you could then update your journal. So I would suggest the easiest way, would be set up your locations in KeyPay, have them feed through somehow, with some text on it for who that's for in the notes, and then pick up. I'm just trying to find a. Let me just run my report. So there is a way to do it. Or you could do your ordinary times earnings separated out per job, put that in your notes, and then in your journal, you could just update here. So I would say, my payroll expense here, broken down by customer here. So at the moment, at this point in time, if you're using projects, it would be a little manual to go in and update your journal entries. You could do one journal entry crediting back the wage expense and then allocating each job out at the end of the month if that's easier, but it can be done. It's just a bit of a workaround at the moment.
Cool, thanks, Leanne. Hey, we have a bunch of questions coming through, but I think we probably need to move on given the amount of stuff we've got to cover today. And again, so everybody knows, we will get back to your questions if you just pop them into the Facebook community or the questions box. Thanks, Leanne.
No worries, thanks, Darcy. So yeah, and also if you have created transactions in the past and then you add in your project, you can go back and update those transactions. So just any expense that you've created, just go in and add in to the field, the customer project field. Same with your invoicing as well. Just allocate it to the customer in here. So just do the cubby house and allocate that. So you can update those transactions. Okay, so moving on now, one of my favorite features that has just come into QuickBooks Online is your progress purchase orders. So this is on page 24 of your manual. So you can now do progress purchase orders, so that if you do have things come in and go on back order, or you know, you've got a subby that you've got a big purchase order for and he's just invoicing you in partial payments, you've now got your progress purchase order. So if I come in to create a purchase order, and I can do this on job, I could have gone into, you know, my project and created that purchase order. I'm going to do this for Bunnings. I'm going to do it with some inventory items, because I do have inventory items in here. I've got some of my, what have I got? Some bags of dirt. I'll order some bags of dirt. So if I say I want to get 10 bags of dirt, and I've got a truck of dirt, we'll just get 2 of those, and maybe some shrubs. So I'm ordering these and we'll get 100 shrubs. So here's my purchase order I'm putting in with Bunnings, whatever your process is. So you'll notice now, if you have been using purchase orders in the past, we have this new little box, very similar to our quote box, where it has open and close. So my purchase order will stay open as long as all my inventory items haven't been, or my purchase order hasn't been filled. And then once it's been filled, then it will close, or I can close that manually as well if I know that the stock that I've ordered is not actually going to come in. So I'm just going to save and close that. Again, whatever your process is, if you're sending that out. And then when my stock arrives, I'll go in to do my bill for Bunnings. My purchase order is going to pop over here, so I'm just going to add that. And so now just a few different features on here as well. If I go in and add in my my quantity received, I'm going to update that to 8 and update that to 1 and update that to 90. So now I've got my purchase order, and that will update my my bill. So it's going to update my purchase order as well. So I've got one linked transaction. I'm just going to save that now. My bill's gone through. And then if I go back to my purchase order, I'll just pick it up from here. I can see that on my purchase order, I've received 8 out of my 10. I've received 1 out of my 2 and 90. So I've still got some of those items that still need to come in. So if I wanted to, if I knew that that stock wasn't going to come in, I just want to close that off, I could either come up here and just move that, convert that to closed, or I might just have some items. So I know that, you know, the two bags of dirt, trucks of dirt, it's my bags of dirt. I'm not going to get those. They're you know, not supplying those anymore. So I'm just going to close that particular line item, but leave these ones open. So I can just save that, and then that will sit in there as my open purchase order. I've got some reports. So on my, I'm just going to do a search here. So I've got my open purchase order list and my open purchase order details. So I just click on the open purchase order list, it'll give me my open purchase orders. This is the open one here. So the original amount, $875, and I've still got a balance of $74 worth of stock. And then also the detailed, then I can get a detailed list of what items are actually still to come in as well by the inventory item. Again, it doesn't have to be inventory. If you've got your subby who you've got a purchase order for the whole job and he's partially invoicing you or invoicing you in progress payments, you can do the same with that as well. Just pick your account item instead of your inventory items. So that is the partial purchase order, which is pretty cool. Okay, so next, moving on. So just pages, so you're just coming back, pages 24, 25, 26, and 27 and 28 go through the partial purchase orders. We're now on to page 29 with 21 minutes left. and Simpler Bass. So obviously, I think you guys would all know that as of 1st of July, ATO introduced the Simpler Bass. And I know for me, when they first brought it out, I'm like, oh, I don't want to change mine. You know, my GST codes are part of my reconciliation process, and I use those to reconcile back things I've got to do for accounts and things like that. But I'm definitely converted. I've switched a couple of files over to Simpler Bass, and it's really nice and neat and easy. And especially if, and I'll just show you just on your GST Centre here, if you haven't gone in and switched it over, just on your edit tax, you'll have, and then your edit settings, you'll have your simpler GST and detailed GST. So if you haven't switched, you'll be still on your detailed. So you can just click to Simpler Bass. It'll pop up a screen just to let you know that you know, you're changing over. Your GST codes are going to change a little. But once you do, so all of the transactions in the past, anything that you've already done and the BASs that you've completed will still have the same GST codes that you allocated to them. And when you do any reports on them as at today's dates, they will just move to the relevant GST on purchases or GST free purchases tax code. So your reporting will still be correct. If you go and change a transaction that was in a previous period, it won't give you those previous tax codes. It'll give you the new tax code. So it's still going to report correctly. You'll just have those the fewer GST codes to select from, if that makes sense. So if we just have a look at the rates, once you change over, and mine are changed over, and it is really good if you've done conversions in the past from other products, you'll know that you've got this, you know, big long list of GST codes. So it does make it a lot nicer just to bring it back to basics. So you'll end up, now I've got an extra one in here with my wet and GST, but you'll just have your GST free purchases, GST on purchases, your GST free sales, and your GST on sales. So these two are your sales, GST free and GST are your sales codes, and then your GST free purchases and GST on purchases are your purchases GST codes. And then obviously you've still got out of scope as well if you don't want that as part of your reporting. So it does make it a lot nicer. And then in our GST Centre now, so if we go in and have a look at our BAS, prepare the BAS, we've just got our G1, our 1A and 1B that are populating in here, unless of course you've got other taxes that you're reporting on, but just G1, 1A and 1B for your GST, and then obviously W1, W2 if you've got payroll, and your other taxes that you need to report on as well. So it is a lot simpler. It actually is simpler. Some other reports that we have in our GST Centre as well, if you haven't noticed, so we've still got our 3 BAS summary, BAS details, BAS amendments. Your BAS summary will look a little different. I actually have no transactions for this. Oh yes, I do. So again, you've just got your G1, your 1A and your 1B. So the top part looks a little different to what it was before, just with your GST on your, or your sales. Your GST free sales have moved up now. And a couple of new reports, oops, if you haven't noticed, we have or one new report, but we've added these reports to the GST Centre recently. One new report that's been added is your transactions by tax code, which I think everyone's been asking for a while, so it's really cool that it's in here now. So you can get a report from your general ledger giving you all of your transactions by GST code. So here's my GST on sales, and I can see all of the transactions that have that GST code, same as my GST on purchases, and then my out of scope. So that's a pretty cool report as well. It is pretty easy if you do want to change over. A lot harder, I think, if you want to move back to the detailed. You can move to the simpler BAS on your own within the product. If you want to go back to detailed, it would be a call to the care team to be able to do that for you. Okay, we've got 15 minutes, and just going to go through now the integration with Google Suite. So Google Sign In, actually going to show you the Google Calendar. So the Google Calendar now you can integrate with your QBO file. So whether it's QBO or your QBOA, now I've got mine set up for my QBOA, which is integrating with my my books here. And if I have a look at my apps tab, I'll see on my firm apps that I have my Google Calendar integrated. So it's really easy, and I'll go through and show you the process quickly, how to do that as well. If I just log into my Gmail account for this, this is my my accountant file, and have a look at my calendar, I can see if I'm using my calendar to schedule my work or record the work that I've done for my clients. So here I've got on the 29th of November, I was at Bentley Handyman from 1 to 2, and on the 30th I was there from 2 to 5. So if I just go in and have a look at that transaction, I've put my Bentley Handyman in the name field, so what it is appearing on my calendar, and then also what I did there in the description down the bottom, and then the hours, so how long I was there for, and say that transaction. So I can add in any new transactions for any client. Just make sure that you add in, like for the title, so I do Ruby's Toy Shop in here, and then go in and fill in the options. So if we're there, or if it's scheduled the hours that you are going to be there, and put it in your calendar. And then when I'm ready to invoice out, I'm just going to discard that, come back to my QBO file, log into my sales in my Your Books. I'm going to go in and create an invoice. When I create an invoice, I've got this little icon pop up, which is my Google Calendar icon. Now I can just click on that, and all of the transactions that I have in my Google Calendar are popping up on the right-hand side in the drawer that pops out. So I can have a date. So if I wanted to do it, for all of November, I might have from the 1st of November to the 30th of November to get all of my monthly invoicing done. We'll do 30th of the 11th. Search by keywords. I've got my Bentley Handyman. What I can do now is just add those times over. So if I want to invoice him out for those particular dates, I'm going to add that to my invoice, and it's going to populate on my invoice here. So the description that I've put in my calendar is picking up here, and these hours, these are set when you integrate the calendar. So I'll just really quickly go through and show you how to do that as well. So whatever description you're going to put in the actual calendar will pop up. So if you're entering it after you've been to see the client, you can put in a lot more detail than what I have on what you actually did, and then invoice out from there. So I just pick up my Bentley Handyman there, and then invoice him out. So I'm going to just save that. And he's getting that for free. I'm just going to show you quickly on the my Bentley Handyman. So this is my my client file, and actually I'm just going to update that from within here. So I'm going to add the app from within my apps tab for him. So if I add the app, go. So invoice with Google Calendar. So get the app. So I'm going to install it for my client. Let's do it. So we need to give permission. So then you just sign into your Google account. I have lots of them. So this is my client's Google account here. So we can manage our contacts, manage our calendars, and view your domain. So that's what Google are just asking, if they can have access to that. So then this is where you can default your services. So if I don't have any services set up in my actual QBOA, so then you can pick up whatever services you want. So with this one in my Bentley Handyman, he's got lots of different services, so we might want to do that for consulting fees. So I can just save that, and that's just going to be my default service. And connected, so now that's all connected. So the Google Calendar will now pop up when we go to do an invoice on my little thing down here. So I can then add things into the calendar for my client. So don't think I have anything in my calendar. How am I going for time? Okay, just got a couple of minutes left. And then just add anything into your calendar from in here, and then you'll be able to, because this is the Google Calendar that's linked in with the Bentley Handyman. That's his calendar, so I can add it in here. Let's just say, now I'm just going to test this, make sure it works. I'm going to say Cubby House. Now I don't know if I've got that. So install Cubby House. We'll do it today, and we'll say we did it from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Save that. So that's in my calendar now for today. So hopefully, might just get out of that and refresh that. Click on so here's my Cubby House, so I can just pick that up now, add that to my invoice, and then invoice that customer out. So that would be Chris for the Cubby House, invoice him out for that time. So I've got a rate in here. The rates come up in this one because my service within QBOA, I've got a rate attached to that when I've added in that product or service, so it is actually picking up that rate. Whereas in my QBOA one, I didn't have any services, so it will pick up the rate for the default. You can update this too if you wanted to change that. Just update the product or service here as well. So that's pretty cool. I really like that, the Google Calendar integration. Last thing is, which is pretty cool, and another pretty cool thing, I keep saying that today, the QB Assistant. So I just recently, a couple of weeks ago, I was at QB Connect in San Jose, and they did a live demo of this on stage. Sasan did the live demo of it on his mobile phone. I've turned it on. If you want to have a play around with this, it is in your QuickBooks Labs. So just come into QuickBooks Labs and turn on QB Assistant. And it is a work in progress. It is fairly new, but what it is, this little messenger that has popped up on the right-hand side of my screen is my QB Assistant. So I can go in there and start to ask questions, and then also on your in your mobile phone app, you'll be able to talk to it like Siri, and just so you know, if you've been to a QB Connect event around the country, you would have seen the lady in the car saying, "Hey QB," ordering her loaves of sourdough and things like that. So it's kind of along those lines, which is really cool. But you can start to ask it some questions. There's not much information in it, and I think the more questions that start to come up. So yeah, so yesterday my top customer hasn't spent any money for this year, so it's still a work in progress, and it is in beta testing. But turn it on and have a play around with it, and over the next couple of months, just watch the progression. You'll be able to get some really useful information just by asking QB. You know, how much money you've made this month, this year, who's your biggest customer, who owes you the most amount of money, all of those kind of things. So that's pretty cool and a work in progress. So that should be awesome when it's completely built out. And this kind of thing also is just the more information, the more questions people are asking it, the better the information it can give back as well. The more it recognizes the questions. So yeah, it'll be really cool. It's really good. And I think that's it, Darcy. I've made it through with 7 minutes to go.
Wow, look at you go, Leanne. That's awesome. Hey, we are getting a bunch of great comments on the Facebook community. Let's keep the discussion going there as well. Lots of people excited about the Google integrations, especially.
Yeah.
But projects, you know, there's a couple of questions we need to follow up on, but we'll definitely get back to those. But great session, Leanne. Excellent.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So we don't need to go through any questions now? right?
Actually, okay, yeah, because we've got a little bit of time, let me just go back to a couple that we need to get back to. One was, sorry, just looking through. Oh, one was, yeah, we'll be recording today and posting it on the QuickBooks Resource Centre, which we'll put a link up for soon. What's the difference? So Kathy Paul asks, what's the difference in reporting between tracking projects via sub-customers compared to projects?
Okay, so projects, and if I show you my customer list, with your projects, it kind of works the same way, but when you add a customer as a sub-customer, so this here, Alex Blakey, extension to Shed, so I was using that before projects came along as a project type thing. So if we have a look at him, your sub-customer is ticked here as a sub-customer in your customer file, and when you go to do you do a search on it, it'll actually say sub-customer rather than project, and only the customers or the projects that you add through your project center will actually come up as a project. So they'll look exactly the same on your customer screen here, your customer register. So you'll see here Chris Smith, and I've got his cubby house, so it looks exactly the same as a sub-customer, but if I go into Chris Smith and edit him, it's not a sub-customer, it's actually a project, and it'll sit under the project tab in here, whereas your sub-customers, so they'll look similar, but it'll come up as a customer rather than a sub-customer. Does that make sense? If I go into create an invoice, so if I go to Alex Blakey, who I know is a sub-customer. So I'll see here at the start sub-customer of Alex Blakey, but when I go to invoice Chris Smith, his will have project of Chris Smith. So you'll be able to distinguish between the two when you're creating the transaction. So it'll either say sub-customer of or project of. I hope that's answered your question.
Perfect, thanks Leanne. Excellent. So we might be able to take one more question, and we do have one from Janelle, who's also said terrific session. Thanks, Leanne Davis.
Thanks, Janelle.
Cool. Janelle also asks, if you've been using sub-customers to track projects, would it be a simple thing to change them back to projects, or does it have to be done manually?
It has to be done manually. Yeah, so you would need to go into each of those transactions that you had the sub-customer for and just change them to the project.
Yeah, and would that be the same for classes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you would need to remove the class from the customer, which you could probably do that pretty easily if you did the reclassify transactions. If you wanted to remove the class, maybe just create one class as a merge class, and get rid of the classes that way through your reclassify, which is, if you haven't used that before, it's just up on your accountant toolbox, and your reclassify transactions, you can reclassify your transactions to a different class. So you could maybe create one class and merge them all into one, and then go back and yeah, you would need to edit every transaction individually.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, we've got a couple of minutes left. I'll start sort of wrapping up. And again, we will get back to your questions. Thanks everybody for jumping into the community as well. For those of you that that aren't in the community yet, we have a Facebook community. It is a closed community. I will pop the name of the community into the chat panel. If you're interested in joining and you are a pro advisor, you're welcome to join there. Also, just another couple of bits of housekeeping. The next link that I'm going to pop into the chat box is our survey. Very short survey. There's only about 7 questions in there, and it won't take you long at all. Really appreciate your feedback in there. And last but not least, again, we will have a recording of this session, and we will post it on the QuickBooks Resource Centre. So I'm just posting the link to the QuickBooks Resource Centre in the chat panel there now as well, and you'll find a wealth of information about all things QuickBooks Online, articles from our trainers like Leanne, all in there as well. So, you know, whenever you're looking for some great reading material, jump into the QuickBooks Resource Centre. Excellent. Well, thanks again, Leanne.
Thanks, Darcy. Thanks, everyone.
We've just hit time, so again, we will get back to all your questions, and thanks everybody for attending and giving us an hour of your time.
Thanks, Darcy. See you, everyone. Bye.